Okay. So today's prophetic word is going to be failed plots and entanglements. Failed plots and entanglements. Hey, okay. So I'm going to be reading from Matthew chapter 22, and Jesus is explaining to his disciples, the kingdom of heaven. So I began to read, and as we read, I say, God will give us revelation as we go along. Okay, so Matthew chapter 22 says, and I got my Bible, it says, and again, Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son and sent his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. And again, he sent others, saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. So pause. Okay. I say, Jesus is speaking of the kingdom of heaven, and how the king has invited those, and called those. And he talks about, when he sent his servants, to call those, how they paid no attention, I say, because they were busy. And it talks about how when the king sent his servants, they were seized and they were treated shamefully and they were killed. I see. So here, Jesus is speaking of the king has invited those, but they were not worthy. The definition of unworthy means not deserving effort, attention, or respect. It also means of a person's action or behavior not acceptable, especially from someone with a good reputation or social position. It means having little value or merit. It means undeserving, not worthy, unbecoming, unsuitable, and inappropriate. I say, so let's pick up from there. Matthew chapter 22, verse 6. While the rest seized his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main roads and invite to the wedding feast as many as you find. And those servants went out into the roads and gathered all whom they found, both bad and good. So the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to look at the guests, he saw there a man who had no wedding garment. And he said to him, friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, bind him hand and foot and cast him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Then the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. I say. So Jesus, I'm going to put a pause here. Jesus is speaking with his disciples, and he's explaining, to the disciples the kingdom of heaven. And the Pharisees, has to be present. And they hear Jesus telling his disciples this. So it says in Matthew chapter 22, verse 15, then the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. So the definition, I'm going to put a pause here, of plotted is to secretly make plans to carry out an illegal an illegal or harmful action. It means to plan, to scheme, to arrange, or to organize. Hey, so the Pharisees, when they heard what Jesus was telling his disciples, they plotted. They plotted in secret. Hey, they came up with a scheme. What was the scheme? Okay, to entangle Jesus in his words. Hey, entangle, the definition of entangle means to cause to become twisted together with or caught in. It means to involve someone in difficulties or complicated circumstances from which it is difficult to escape. It means to intertwine, entwine, tangle, or intertwist. It means to involve, implicate, embroil, or mix up. Hey. And I say, so, okay, I say, they wanted to intertwine, tangle, intertwist, implicate, mix up Jesus' words, mix him up in his words. Hey, they plan to entangle Jesus by his words. Hey, I see. Hey, so we're picking back up. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 15, it says, Then the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. And they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are true and teach the way of God truthfully, and you do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by appearances. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, Why put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. And Jesus said to them, Whose likeness and inscription is this? They said, Caesar's. Then he said to them, Therefore, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. When they heard it, they marveled. And they left him and went away. Hey, so pause. I'm going to tell you what's going on right here. Hey, no, I see. Jesus is speaking to his disciples, and he's explaining the kingdom of heaven to his disciples. The Pharisees overhear it, and they come together, and they come up with a plan, a plot. Hey, how to twist him up in his words. Okay, they was trying to trip him up, trick him. So they come to him with some money, basically, and they're asking him, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Hey, I say, with them asking Jesus this question, their intentions, I said, was to entangle him, to get him twisted up. They wanted to find grounds to have something to accuse him of. Okay, I say, but it says in Matthew chapter 22, verse 18, but Jesus, aware of their malice, Jesus was aware of what they were trying to do. But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, Why put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax. And they brought him the denarius. And Jesus said to them, Whose likeness and inscription is this? They said, Caesar's. Then he said to them, Therefore, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. When they heard it, they marveled, and they left him and went away. Hey, so their plan that they was trying to do to get him entangled up in his words, it didn't work. They ended up leaving, and they went away. Matthew chapter 22, verse 23. The same day, Sadducees came up to him, who said that there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses said if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, and having no offspring left, and having no offspring left his wife to his brother. So to the second and third, down to the seventh. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, of the seven, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. But Jesus answered them, you are wrong, because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living. And when the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, what do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, the son of David. He said to them, how is it then that David in the spirit calls him Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If then David calls him Lord, how is he his son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions.